Picture yourself standing atop a windswept ridge in the Scottish Highlands, where centuries-old stones and wild heather once ruled the view. Now the horizon is transformed, dotted with brilliant white wind turbines slowly spinning against the misty sky. For many, these turbines are symbols of hope, a bold stride toward a cleaner, more sustainable future. For others, they are unwelcome intruders, disrupting the ancient and rugged beauty of Scotland's storied landscape. Into this passionate debate steps former President Donald Trump, making headlines with a message that reverberates far beyond the rolling hills. Tear down every windmill, revive oil and gas, and turn away from the green revolution. Is Britain's ambitious march toward clean energy at risk of being derailed by a powerful political current? Or is this just another skirmish in the global contest over the future of power and prosperity? Britain's energy revolution. Ambition meets reality. Over the last decade and a half, the United Kingdom has positioned itself as one of the world's frontrunners in the race to decarbonize. The government's climate commitments are more than just lofty pronouncements. They are etched into law, woven into policy, and backed by significant public and private investment. By the end of this decade, policymakers aim for as much as half of Scotland's total energy consumption to come from renewable sources. Across the UK, onshore wind capacity is targeted to reach between 27 and 29 gigawatts, while offshore wind is set to skyrocket to as much as 51 gigawatts. These targets mean not only thousands of new turbines rising from fields and seas, but also billions of pounds pouring into infrastructure, jobs, and innovation. The numbers behind the transformation. Public support for this transformation is nothing short of extraordinary. Recent opinion surveys suggest that as many as 4 in every 5 Britons, approximately 80% of the entire population, support the transition to green energy. In an era marked by division, such unity is rare and powerful, reflecting a widespread recognition that change is both urgent and inevitable. By January of next year, it is projected that renewables will supply more than 2/5 of the nation's total energy, with wind, solar, and hydroelectric generation forming the backbone of the new British grid. The progress is staggering. The United Kingdom's renewable energy capacity in the year 2025 stands at just over 61 gigawatts. By the close of this decade, that figure is expected to leap to nearly 92 gigawatts. That is a surge of more than 50% in less than 5 years, a rate of change that would have been dismissed as fantasy by the previous generation. Visionaries like Dale Vince, the trailblazing founder of Ecotricity, have catalyzed this boom. Vince's company, now valued at over £100 million, is not simply a beacon of green idealism, but proof that clean energy can also drive economic prosperity. As Vince puts it, renewables are the cheapest form of energy we can make. The pushback. A nation divided. Still, this revolution is not without its critics. Donald Trump's recent remarks calling wind turbines detrimental to the beauty of Scotland have reignited old arguments and inspired new ones. He is not an isolated voice. Industry veterans like the retired consulting engineer Stuart Goodman argue that the country risks moving too quickly away from fossil fuels. Goodman has said, "Hopefully Trump can persuade Keir Starmer to continue to develop oil and gas as we all know they should. We are not in a place where we can abandon it." These debates dig far deeper than surface-level aesthetics. At stake are fundamental questions of economic security, national identity, and the livelihoods of millions. Detractors worry that a rapid transition away from oil and gas could mean lost jobs, shrinking investments, and higher energy bills for ordinary families. Chris O'Shea, the head of British Gas, has warned that shifting green taxes entirely from electricity to gas would punish the poor and amount to a terrible distortion of the market. Meanwhile, energy advocates such as Lisa Christie of Vattenfall counter that the government's renewed focus on unlocking the potential of onshore wind is essential for the UK's energy security. A precarious balance. Ambition versus pragmatism. The UK government is now caught in a delicate balancing act. Can the nation fulfill its promise to reach net zero emissions by the midpoint of this century without sacrificing economic stability? Can new green industries grow quickly enough to replace the jobs and revenues that oil and gas have provided for well over 100 years? And, perhaps most importantly, what happens if the political winds shift and the green revolution itself comes under threat? Looking back. From coal to clean energy. To appreciate what is at stake, it helps to reflect on how far the UK has come. Merely 20 years ago, coal was still king. Britain's power stations consumed millions of tons of coal annually, releasing vast quantities of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Over the last 2 decades, nearly every coal-fired power plant has been shuttered, replaced by renewables and cleaner-burning natural gas. This shift has slashed carbon emissions from the power sector by more than half a feat few other industrialized nations can claim. But the green transition is broader than wind and solar. It is about reimagining every aspect of modern life. Electric vehicles, once rare, now glide down city streets. Heat pumps, once seen as futuristic gadgets, are becoming household staples. The national grid itself is undergoing a digital revolution, deploying artificial intelligence and real-time data to match supply with demand more efficiently. Modernizing the grid. The next challenge. Despite these breakthroughs, significant challenges loom. The electricity grid, a complex, interconnected system built over decades for fossil fuel power, requires a sweeping overhaul. Integrating large amounts of intermittent wind and solar energy demands new transmission lines, advanced battery storage, and smarter, more flexible controls. Without these upgrades, even the cleanest power can be squandered as the grid creaks under the pressure of surging supply on windy days. Economic stakes, winners, losers, and the promise of a just transition. The clean energy sector now sustains hundreds of thousands of British jobs. From engineers designing offshore wind farms to technicians maintaining solar installations in remote countryside. Scotland, drawing on its long tradition of engineering prowess, has become a magnet for renewable innovation, attracting research centers and high-skilled workers from across the globe. The transition has also sparked a renaissance in education and training, equipping the next generation for careers in green technology and sustainability. Yet not everyone is reaping the rewards. Communities that once relied on oil refineries or coal mines face an uncertain future. For many, the promise of new green jobs has not yet materialized, and the pace of change can seem overwhelming. Policymakers must navigate these regional and social tensions with care, ensuring that no group is left behind. The idea of a just transition, where the economic benefits and burdens of change are shared fairly, has become central to the national debate. Britain's global example. Leading or lagging. Beyond its borders, Britain's efforts are being watched closely. Developed nations like Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands are racing to decarbonize, each pursuing their own blend of policies and technologies. Britain's approach, combining ambitious targets with market reforms and robust public support, is often seen as a template for others. Yet it is also a test. Can a major industrial economy truly go green without sacrificing growth or sparking social unrest? Two diverging paths. What comes next? Two futures now beckon. In one, Britain doubles down on its green revolution. Policymakers invest heavily in wind, solar, and emerging technologies like hydrogen and tidal power. New industries take root. Tens of thousands of jobs are created, and Britain establishes itself as a leader and exporter of cutting-edge clean tech. The nation not only meets but exceeds its net zero promises, inspiring a new wave of global ambition. In the other scenario, mounting political pushback and economic anxiety slow the transition. Fears over job losses, rising energy prices, and grid reliability breed hesitant policies and uncertain investment. Britain falls behind its international rivals, missing out on the economic opportunities of the new green economy. Its reputation as a climate leader is tarnished, and the journey to net zero becomes even steeper. A pragmatic path. The middle ground. Industry experts like Mark Lappin believe the answer lies somewhere in the middle. The future mix will require us to balance cost, reliability, and emissions, Lappin explains. Pragmatism means embracing renewables where they add the most value, while continuing to manage oil and gas resources responsibly during the transitions. Lappin cautions against the tribalism that often clouds the energy debate. If you are for something, you have to be against other things, but we need both. Energy security, local power, global stability. Another critical concern is energy security. Recent global events, from the war in Ukraine to trade disputes with key oil-producing nations, have underscored the dangers of depending on imported fossil fuels. Renewables, in contrast, harness local resources like wind, sunlight, and water, reducing exposure to foreign shocks and price volatility. This shift is not just an environmental necessity, it is a cornerstone of national resilience. Opportunities and innovations. The Scottish surge. Opportunities abound, particularly in Scotland, which is on track to generate at least half of its total energy consumption from renewables by the year 2030. Across the UK, the goal is to surpass 90 gigawatts of green capacity, nearly twice the current level. The public remains enthusiastic, with more than 4 in 5 Britons supporting the clean energy transition. Major reforms enacted in July of 2025 are already speeding up deployment by extending contract lengths for clean energy projects and revamping auction rules to attract greater investment. But the risks are formidable. The electricity grid must be modernized to accommodate new power sources. Any delays or policy reversals could cause investment to evaporate overnight, putting at risk the thousands of high-skilled jobs that have become a hallmark of the green economy. If the costs of transition are not managed equitably, social divisions could widen, undermining the very public support that has made Britain's progress possible. International perspectives. Britain as a model? Globally, the United Kingdom's journey offers important lessons. Countries like Germany have pursued aggressive renewable rollouts, with wind and solar now generating the majority of their electricity in some regions. Denmark, long a pioneer in wind technology, has leveraged its early investments to build a thriving export industry. The Netherlands, once synonymous with oil and gas, is rapidly transforming its North Sea assets into offshore wind hubs. Britain's blend of public buy-in, policy innovation, and economic pragmatism is being studied intently by policymakers from Tokyo to Toronto. Historical parallels. Echoes of the past. This is not the first time Britain has reinvented itself through energy. During the Industrial Revolution, coal powered the nation's rise to global prominence, but also left a legacy of pollution and hardship. The decline of coal in the late 20th century was traumatic for many regions, but ultimately led to cleaner air and new industries. Today's green revolution is both a break from the past and a continuation of Britain's long history of adaptation and resilience. The social side. Transparency and engagement. The energy transition is not just a technical challenge. It is a profoundly social one. As Chris O'Shea warns, abrupt changes in how green taxes are applied can unfairly burden the most vulnerable households. For example, if all the costs of supporting renewables are shifted onto gas bills, families who cannot easily upgrade to heat pumps or electric heating could see their expenses soar. Policymakers must tread carefully, balancing efficiency with fairness and ensuring that the benefits of clean energy are widely shared. Public engagement and transparency are crucial. The choices made today will impact not just energy bills, but job opportunities, housing values, and even the cars people drive. Local consultations, public forums, and community-owned energy projects can help bring more voices into the conversation. Every consumer's decision, whether to switch to a green supplier, support local wind projects, or participate in neighborhood solar schemes, now matters more than ever. The economics. Follow the money. As Dale Vince emphasizes, renewables are now the cheapest form of energy available, even putting aside climate concerns. This is a game changer, shifting debates from ethics to economics. With government reforms, such as the extension of clean energy contract lengths, innovators find it easier than ever to invest, while consumers benefit from lower prices. Investors are pouring billions of pounds into new factories, research hubs, and supply chains, all centered on clean technology. The resilience of renewables. Weathering global storms. Recent years have brought unprecedented shocks to global energy markets. The pandemic, geopolitical crises, and price spikes have shaken traditional energy sectors. Yet, renewables have proven remarkably resilient. When gas prices soared, wind and solar kept Britain's lights on and helped cushion the blow for households. In Denmark and Germany, which have gone even further with renewables, these technologies now form the backbone of national grids, once dismissed as unreliable, but now the cornerstone of energy security. Technological hurdles. Integrating the future. Of course, challenges remain. Integrating vast new sources of wind and solar into the grid is a complex task. Managing the variability of these resources, ensuring a steady supply of backup power, and deploying innovations like battery storage and demand-side management all require ongoing investment and planning. However, each year brings new breakthroughs, from more efficient batteries to smarter grid controls, making it easier to balance supply and demand. Global supply chains, ethics, and sustainability. As Britain accelerates toward net zero, it must also ensure that the global supply chains underpinning its energy transition are both ethical and sustainable. This involves responsible sourcing of materials for batteries and turbines, minimizing environmental impacts, and upholding fair labor practices. The international nature of the green revolution offers opportunities for partnership, but also demands vigilance to avoid exporting social or ecological problems elsewhere. The next 5 years. A critical window. The coming 5 years will be decisive. Policies enacted today will shape Britain's economy, environment, and society for generations. Will the country maintain its lead in green innovation, or will it falter amidst political and economic headwinds? The answer depends not just on politicians and CEOs, but on the collective choices of millions of Britons, and, indeed, on the world's response. Personal impact. What does it mean for you? So what does all this mean for you, whether you live in Britain or on the other side of the globe? First, energy is no longer just a monthly bill. It is a powerful engine of inflation, a key driver of job creation or loss, and a major influence on housing markets, transportation, and day-to-day life. The decisions being made in Britain today will ripple across global energy markets, climate strategies, and economic trends. Second, pay close attention to where investment is flowing. As renewables become ever more cost-competitive, you can expect to see new industries spring up, from battery manufacturing in the Midlands to offshore wind technology clusters in the North Sea. Universities are leading research into next-generation energy storage and grid management, attracting top global talent eager to be part of this transformation. Third, remember that big change often triggers resistance. As Chris O'Shea has warned, sudden policy shifts can have real, sometimes unintended consequences for vulnerable communities. Ensuring that the transition is both fair and effective is a challenge for every policymaker and for every citizen who cares about the future. A global audience. Lessons and inspiration. Britain's green revolution is already attracting billions of pounds in new investment, reshaping supply chains, and inspiring a new generation of entrepreneurs and engineers. The world is watching closely,